It was past midnight when I finally returned to my office, the room dimly lit by the soft glow of the city skyline filtering through the window blinds. The silence was deafening. The air hung heavy, as if the walls themselves had been holding their breath with me these past few days. I walked slowly to my desk, every step echoing off the marble floors like a countdown. My heart was racing. I had the footage. The little girl had been right. There was, indeed, a camera hidden in the carved molding just above my bookshelf, and it had recorded everything. The night before, after confronting Cecilia and watching her break down with a performance worthy of an Oscar, I still had doubts. She insisted she loved me, that it was a misunderstanding, that maybe someone else had planted the camera, but I couldn't afford to trust anyone anymore, not even her. So I did the one thing she hadn't expected. I went to the source. Using the hidden feed, I managed to tap into the stored cloud footage. There were weeks' worth of clips. I watched them all, every private conversation, every moment of vulnerability, and finally, a familiar voice. Make sure he signs the final contract before the end of the quarter. We don't need him holding equity once the board is reshuffled. That voice didn't belong to Cecilia. It belonged to Charles, my second in command. That moment sent a chill down my spine. My trusted friend, my protégé, was orchestrating a betrayal that ran deeper than anything I had imagined. The footage revealed their meetings, their plans. Cecilia wasn't just spying on me, she was part of a corporate coup. At 3:27 a.m., I summoned my legal team. No more games, no more second chances. We had the evidence: wire fraud, corporate espionage, breach of trust. I wanted everything documented, notarized, filed before sunrise. But I wasn't stopping there. I called in the press. Not a leak, not a whisper to a friend at Forbes. I booked a full press conference, and I was going to do it in my lobby, the same place where she kissed me on our anniversary. The same place where Charles gave his speech about loyalty last quarter. Now it would be the place their empire died. At 9 a.m., sharp, the lobby was full. Cameras, journalists, investors, my staff, even my board, shocked and confused, gathered in silence. I stepped forward, holding the USB drive in one hand. I have always believed in trust, I began. And I have always believed in transparency, which is why you're all here today. I laid bare everything: dates, names, audio clips. The video played behind me on the screen. There was no spin, no chance for rebuttal. People gasped. Some cried. A few stormed out. Cecilia didn't show up. Charles did, and he didn't blink. Until the handcuffs clicked behind him. Days passed. The media had a field day. The story trended worldwide. Millionaire betrayed by lover and best friend delivers live justice. But none of that mattered to me. Not the interviews. Not the applause. Not even the vindication. What mattered was the moment I sat in the park, watching that same little girl play with her mom. She saw me, smiled, ran over. "Did you fix it?" she asked. I knelt to her level. "Yeah, I did." She nodded, satisfied, and returned to the swings. And for the first time in months, I breathed. The truth had almost destroyed me. But it also saved me. It took me 5 full minutes to process what she said. "There's a camera in your office." 5 words, whispered by a little girl holding a stuffed unicorn. And yet it hit harder than any boardroom betrayal I've faced in my life. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, watching the security feeds from my phone. Back and forth. Camera 1. Camera 3, conference room. Reception. But my office didn't have a live feed because there was never supposed to be a camera in there. At 3:17 a.m., I opened my laptop and made a call. Private. Discreet. "Marcus," I said, "I need you to sweep my office. Today. For bugs, hidden devices, All of it. Everything okay, boss? No, and don't tell anyone you're doing it. At 9:34 a.m., Marcus walked into my office with a toolbox and a fake HVAC repair badge. He played the part. Air vents, outlets, bookshelf, desk drawers. Nothing. Then he stopped by the potted ficus in the corner. The one my fiancée insisted I keep. Adds life to the room, she'd said. He stared at the base of the pot. Then pulled out a tool the size of a pin. Beep. He didn't say a word, just nodded. Then reached in and pulled out a matte black USB spy cam, smaller than a coin, with a wide-angle lens facing directly at my desk. I felt my knees weaken. Marcus looked at me, then quietly placed the device in a static-proof bag. Whoever put this here knew what they were doing, he said. No wireless signals, fully local storage, motion activated. My hands clenched into fists. I had only ever given two people the alarm code, my fiancée and my assistant. My assistant had worked with me for 8 years. She was loyal, professional, and had a deep hatred for houseplants. But my fiancée? We met 11 months ago. At a charity gala I almost didn't attend. She was charming, elegant, intelligent, and now possibly dangerous. By noon I had one mission: find out how much she knows, and why. That evening I walked into the house and kissed her like nothing had changed. She was wearing my favorite dress, the emerald one, the one she wore the night I proposed. I made you something, she said sweetly. Pasta, wine, candles. But my stomach churned. I took one bite and almost dropped the fork. Everything okay, baby? She asked. Yeah, I lied. Just a long day. I excused myself and went upstairs. I needed to think. That's when I heard it. A faint, mechanical click, coming from the vent above the hallway. I stood beneath it, silent. Another click. Was it a camera? A motion sensor? I grabbed a stool, climbed up, and shined my phone's light inside. There, nestled between the coils, was another lens, this time pointing toward our bedroom door. I nearly fell off the stool. What the hell was going on? One camera in my office was bad enough, but this? Was I being watched 24/7? Or worse, recorded? I didn't say a word to her that night, but I barely slept. Every creak in the house felt like a threat, every shadow like a secret, and every smile from her like a lie. The next morning I called my attorney. I need you to run a check on someone, I said. Who? My fiancée. What he found made my blood turn cold. She'd changed her name 3 times. Her last listed employer? A private consulting firm with ties to competitive intelligence. And her previous address? An apartment listed under a shell corporation located across from the corporate HQ of my largest rival. My heart raced. Was this about money? Power? Or something deeper? Something personal? That night I made a decision. I'd bait her. If she was spying on me, watching, recording, she'd want something. And I was going to give her a reason to slip. I returned home with a briefcase and a locked metal box inside. I placed it on the kitchen counter and made sure she saw it. New project, I told her. Confidential, might change everything. She lit up. But she tried to hide it. I watched her closely that night. Every move. Every glance. And when she thought I was asleep, she crept into the office. The same office I had bugged earlier myself. What she did next changed everything. I didn't sleep that night. My penthouse had never felt so hollow, the walls so thin. The silence roared in my ears as I sat in the living room, lights off, fingers trembling around a glass of untouched whiskey. I had everything: wealth, power, status, but tonight I felt powerless. My fiancée was in the guest room. I hadn't spoken to her since dinner. She had tried to act normal, smiled, asked about my day, like she wasn't sitting on a minefield, like she didn't know I had found the camera. That damn camera. Every 15 minutes I checked my phone. At 2:13 a.m., it buzzed. A message from Simon. "You're gonna want to see this. Timestamps 3:14 p.m. Audio synced." I opened the file. It was grainy footage from my office. The angle was high, hidden in a ceiling beam. I saw myself enter. Then Fiona. She closed the door, smiled, and pulled out her phone. But she didn't sit across from me. She turned her back to the camera and typed. Then her voice, quiet, nervous. "He suspects nothing. I think he's about to sign the Geneva documents." Geneva. My tech contract with the Swiss firm, worth $42 million. Highly confidential. My jaw clenched. "He thinks I'm on his side," she whispered. "But I'll send everything by Friday night. Just make sure the accounts are ready." She paused. Then, "And for God's sake, don't text me during dinner again." The clip ended. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. She wasn't just a liar. She was a spy, or a plant. Someone had sent her into my life. And I let her in. Hook after hook, I replayed the scene. I scrolled to other dates. Footage from last week, another conversation. This time with someone in my office. A man. Medium build, balding, tan jacket. I recognized him. Jared. My CFO, my best friend of 12 years. He leaned in, whispering. "Once it's done, he'll be in breach. They'll have legal grounds to remove him." Remove me? From my own company? My hand shook as I paused the video. I stood, staggered back, and slammed the whiskey glass against the floor. It shattered across the marble tiles, but the rage in me didn't shatter with it. They were trying to erase me. My fiancé, my CFO, my closest circle. And I had no proof, except the tapes. The next morning I walked into the kitchen. Fiona was there in her silk robe, sipping coffee like she hadn't just committed treason. "Morning," she said sweetly. I stared at her. For a full 10 seconds. Then I smiled. "Morning." If she noticed anything off, she didn't show it. But I knew. And now, they didn't know what I knew. Which gave me the advantage. That evening, I invited Jared and Fiona to a small celebration dinner at the penthouse. Told them I signed the Geneva deal. Told them I wanted to toast the next chapter. They smiled, clinked glasses. And I watched them both. Their body language, their eyes. Liars. Both of them. But I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. I needed more than tapes. I needed witnesses. I needed timing. I needed a plan. Because they weren't just trying to rob me. They were going to bury me. And I was going to make them dig their own graves. She was still smiling. That soft, serene smile she wore so naturally. It used to comfort me. Now it unnerved me. I sat across from her in our kitchen the next morning, her robe wrapped loosely, coffee in hand. "Sleep okay?" she asked, brushing her hair behind one ear. I studied her face. Calm. Controlled. Too controlled. I nodded once, then sipped from my mug. A camera in my office. A whisper from a child. The two things warred in my head, louder with each passing second. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled back. Yeah, I slept fine. The truth was, I hadn't slept at all. After the little girl's warning, I tore apart my office the moment she left. I checked every lamp, every corner, every decorative book on the shelf. And then I saw it tucked into the inside rim of the ceiling fan. A pinhole lens. Wired. 5. My fiancé had bugged my home office. Every call, every meeting, every document I reviewed. Recorded. For months, maybe. And I would have never known if not for that little girl. "You want eggs?" she asked me. I blinked. "No, I'm good." She stood, gliding around the kitchen like she owned the air. I could see her watching me not directly, but checking every reaction I made. She didn't know I knew. Not yet. But how do you confront a spy? How do you accuse the person you love of violating your life when you're not even sure why? I waited until she left the house. Then I made my move. I called Jonah, my tech guy from back when I still ran security contracts. "You ever do a full digital sweep on a private residence?" He laughed. "Man, I used to sweep embassies. What'd you find?" I told him everything. Jonah was at my place within the hour. By sunset, he'd found 4 more devices. One in the chandelier above the dining room. One behind the mirror in the hallway. One inside a decorative vase, a gift from her. And one beneath our bed. I sat on the edge of the mattress, staring at that last device. It was no larger than a coin. Black, hidden. Everything we ever said in bed. Every secret. Every late-night whisper. She had it all. Why? Who was she really working for? Jonah sat beside me, his voice low. "You got a few enemies, boss, but this is personal. This ain't corporate espionage." He handed me a flash drive. "Here's the raw data. Every recorded file. Every timestamp." I stared at it like it burned. "You sure you want to listen to what's on this?" I paused. Then nodded. What I heard. It didn't just break me. It reconstructed me. She'd been calling someone every Thursday at 10:15 a.m. The same time I always left for my therapist. "I've got another one," she whispered on the recording. "For tomorrow. His personal ledger is open on the desk now. Looks like he's funding a startup under a shell company." There was silence. Then a man's voice replied, "Good, keep feeding it. Once we flip his portfolio, we'll finish the extraction." Extraction? Flip? She wasn't just spying on me. She was stealing. Using my trust to rob me blind. And worse, she wasn't working alone. I copied the recordings. Every single one. Then I called my lawyer. And then I called her sister. Because if anyone knew why a woman would betray the man who gave her everything, it was the one person she'd known longer than me. Her sister arrived trembling. And what she told me turned this from betrayal to conspiracy. It was a Tuesday afternoon when my world began to unravel, not with a bang, but with a whisper. I was sitting at the edge of the pool, phone in hand, scanning investment reports while my fiancée, Camille, played in the shallow end with my business partner's daughter. Camille was radiant, hair pinned up, laughing easily, sun catching the gold of her necklace. It was the kind of moment I used to think I'd never deserve. That's when the little girl Ava, all of 6 years old, tugged at my arm and leaned in close. "There's a camera in your office," she whispered. I froze. "What did you say?" She giggled nervously. "Camille told someone on the phone that there's a camera in your office. I heard it last night. She didn't know I was awake." Something dropped in my stomach. A heavy, cold weight. "Camille? A camera? In my office?" I run a private hedge fund with millions in sensitive client data. My office is on the second floor of my estate, a place where no one, Not even Camille was allowed to enter freely. I'd installed a security system myself. I had motion sensors, swipe locks, redundant backups. Was it paranoia or foresight? Right now it didn't matter, because something had pierced that wall. "Did she say anything else?" I asked gently, trying not to scare AVA. She shrugged. She was whispering. "Then she said your name and something about copies." Camille called someone and talked about copies. I was no longer hearing a child's story. I was hearing the sound of betrayal. I glanced back at Camille in the water, arms out, smiling at AVA like nothing was wrong. But something was very, very wrong. That night, I didn't sleep. I waited until Camille was in bed, pretending to be asleep, and then crept into my office. Everything looked fine. The bookshelves, the antique globe, the desk, the monitor, even the air purifier next to the window. But I knew better. I opened the panel behind the main bookshelf and pulled out my backup scanner, a portable RF signal detector I'd used back in the early days when I suspected my business was being tapped. And there it was, a faint pulse. Something was transmitting from inside this room. My hands trembled. I turned slowly, then I saw it. It wasn't in the air purifier. It wasn't in the clock. It was in the picture frame Camille gave me on our 1-year anniversary. A smiling photo of the two of us on the Amalfi Coast. A small lens, barely noticeable, embedded into the bottom edge. She used our love as cover for surveillance. My own fiancé had planted a camera in my office. I sat down, heart pounding. This wasn't just about privacy, this was espionage, corporate theft, identity compromise. If she was working for someone, what had she already seen? Investment accounts, passwords, emails, clients. And why? Who would she be working with? A competitor? An overseas fund? Or worse, my own business partner? But the bigger question wasn't why. It was how long. How long had she been planning this? I opened my laptop and started searching through my digital backups, checking timestamps, system logs, anything unusual. I found something. 2 weeks ago, a strange remote login attempt I had chalked up as a glitch. Last week, 2 backup files went missing. And then 3 days ago, a camera recording saved and remotely purged, accessed from Camille's device. She had been siphoning my life without me ever suspecting. I returned to the bedroom just before sunrise. She was still asleep, curled into the blankets like a portrait of peace. But now, every detail, the scent of her hair, the way she held the pillow, the slight twitch of her lips felt fake. It wasn't just my privacy she violated. She broke something deeper. My trust. And if Ava hadn't whispered what she did, I would have never known. The next morning, I sat at the breakfast table like nothing had changed. Camille walked in, smiling, wearing the robe I bought her from Paris. She kissed my cheek. I forced myself not to flinch. "Big meeting today?" she asked. "Yeah," I said calmly. "Important client. Confidential." Her eyes flicked, just slightly. I saw it. Like she was taking mental notes, watching for a tell. This time, I gave her one. I left my briefcase on the kitchen table slightly open, deliberately showing a folder marked merger terms, urgent. It was bait. I had a hidden tracker slipped into the folder. If she moved it, I'd know. 2 hours later, while pretending to be gone, I watched the footage from the security camera I'd installed in the kitchen before Camille moved in. At 11:14 a.m., Camille entered the room. She walked straight to the folder, took pictures of each page with her phone, then returned it, careful to leave everything as it was. Except now, I knew. And now it was my turn to play. To be continued in part 2. How far does the betrayal go, and what will he uncover next?